What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to the Mac and Fish podcast. I'm Coach McKinley Roll, and I'm here with my co-host, Charles Fishbein, better known as Fish. Fish, what's going on?
What's up?
All right, we're also here with our other co-host, Corey Long. Corey, what's going on?
How you guys doing tonight?
Good. Well, some interesting games this past weekend. Let's jump right into it. Clemson, BC. Obviously, newsworthy story was Trevor Lawrence, testing positive for coronavirus. And, obviously that was a detriment to Clemson's team. Fish, what were your thoughts in the game?
Boston College jumped out to 28-13 lead by halftime, and Clemson was on the ropes. It looked like there was a possibility of an upset, but you got to give the coaches credit at Clemson. What makes great teams great is they're able to come back from adversity, and you look at the history of the last 10 years of the teams that have made runs to the finals. They have that one game where they're always behind or they have to come back, and it's every great team. We've talked about this before. It's very hard to get these kids up every week, and I just don't think it's not like back in the day when you used to see Nebraska in the Big Eight and they would win 72-0 against Kansas. There aren't no Kansases. Well, I can't say there's no Kansases anymore because there is Kansas, but the teams in the ACC that are good. They're not blowouts anymore. So you have to come every week, and Kansas Kansas. I'm so confused on that, but Clemson had to come from behind, and their star players, Etienne, he made a ton of plays. 7 catches for 140 yards and a touchdown. He had 20 rushes for 84 and a touchdown, so he had a big day. But the freshman quarterback, DJ, started out, had a slow day early on. He got behind, but when it mattered most, we talk about this all the time. People talk about star rankings, 5 stars, 30 for 41 for 342 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he also had a rushing touchdown that pretty much started the rally, I believe, in the second half. It was a 20-yard touchdown run. So they have players, and these guys keep stepping up when they need them to, and that's what makes Clemson so tough to beat. Is everybody sits there and goes, they're beatable. Well, until you beat them, it's easy to say, hey, this team's beatable. But I think they're a team that has maybe 1 or 2 challenges left before they get to the ACC title game, and it's pretty much clear sailing for them. Other than next week with Trevor out, it's pretty much clear sailing to another playoff spot for the 5th or 6th year.
Yeah. I love Boston. It was funny. Boston College pretty much got every break you would need to get to pull off this upset. Besides the quarterback being out, they're up 14-7. Clemson's looking to tie it, and they end up fumbling the ball at the 1. It turns into a 99-yard touchdown the other way. They get this amazing catch on a touchdown to make it 28-10. So they got all these breaks, but like Fish said, the top, you can see why certain kids are considered elite and what they're able to do. DJ Uiagalelei, he had an interesting kind of first quarter, but he got better. He got better with every drive. It felt like every drive they were starting to figure out what he could do. He absolutely fires the ball. His fastball is impressive. When he ran for the touchdown, I heard comparisons. He physically looks kind of like Dante Culpepper, big 245-pound guy out there running. And I'm really kind of excited to see him play Notre Dame next week. It works out for Clemson on a few levels. They don't have to win the game. They can play Notre Dame again in the ACC title game and be fine. It gives Trevor Lawrence rest. He's taken some hits this year, so now he's going to get 2 or 3 weeks of just to rest up his body. And I think, this kid's going to get some confidence, whether they win or lose. I think he's going to play well. I saw enough to believe that he can go on the road and play well. I think he's going to use his running ability a lot more. He's big. He's so physically big and hard to take down. So you start adding his ability to throw with Etienne. I just still think they're just tough. I mean, whether Trevor Lawrence is playing or not, that's a team that, they're built to win championships. And that means that guys have the ability to step up when other guys go down.
Yeah, I thought that at least what Boston College showed was this is the most I've ever seen a Clemson defense really give up, right? As compared to when they're playing in the playoffs. But as far as an ACC play, I thought they showed a little vulnerability, which is a credit to Boston College, right? I mean, yeah. But like you talked about, Corey, I think that what this is actually showing is Clemson's depth. And with Lawrence out, he's only one injury away from the next man up. And I thought the quarterback stepped up. I mean, he started off a little rocky, but, obviously he got better towards the second half. So credit to him. But I think the Lawrence situation is something to look at, though, as well. You don't miss 2 weeks and don't have some kind of drop off. So, we'll see how that affects them, but we'll see.
Yep. The one thing I'd like to kick in real quick is I think BC made the right hire.
God! Yeah.
I think we need to give them credit. Jeff Hafley was a guy. He's from New Jersey. Was a guy that I believe was one of these top recruiters in the Jersey area. That's how he got a name for himself. And what he did at Ohio State, you look at Ohio State, he had one of the top-rated defenses. Their defense wasn't as good this weekend. But what he's done at BC in such a short amount of time, we hear, oh, you need time. There's been the whole COVID excuse. BC looks pretty good, for a team that wasn't very good last year. And he's done a phenomenal job in a short time. And I think they already have like the top-rated class. I know it's early for 2022. He's already landed some top kids. So not only is he a very good recruiter, he's going to make Boston College a tough team to beat year in and year out up there. It's been a while since they've had this type of potential. And you got to figure if he can continue to bring in quarterbacks and good tight ends and some good skill kids, defensively he's going to get it done because that's where his expertise is. But Boston College is going to be a team, I think, that maybe they don't contend for the ACC title in the next couple of years, but they're going to ruin a lot of teams' weekends in the next couple of years. But I don't know how you guys think about it, but that's my take on it.
I love their offensive identity. I love what they're doing now. Last year, the last 5 or 6 years under Adazio, they were 3 yards in the cloud of dust. And, a guy with no spring football, and I know COVID hit Boston like it did every place else, somehow manages to come in, implement more of a spread pro style offense right away, brings in a transfer quarterback in Jurkovich, figured out a way to get some players on the roster. And, and gave Clemson their biggest test in that conference in a very long time. And, you feel like even if they're not going to compete for the ACC title in the future, they're going to be the top end of those second-tier teams, that 8-9 win team, that team that's capable of pulling off an upset, that, they're fighting with Virginia Tech and some of those other teams to be that, that team that might be right a notch below Clemson. But, Hafley right away, you can look at his recruiting class. It's good. It's a good recruiting class.
So you telling me that you don't have to have a whole year to be with someone, or you don't have to you don't have an excuse of COVID, or it's a new staff. You don't have to have all Americans. Is that what you're saying?
Not if you're a good coach.
That sounds like you're talking about some people. I don't know, man.
Yeah, not if you know what you're doing. Then yes, you can absolutely go in there and coach some football.
All right, interesting. Okay, 10-4. All right, well, let's talk about let's hop into a little bit of the Big Ten. Big game with Ohio State, Penn State. Penn State key stat hasn't been 0-2 since I believe they said 2013. Yep. That's it's pretty significant. But let's talk about the teams that Penn State they went against. I mean, Indiana looks like a new type of program, and obviously Ohio State is Ohio State. So Corey, what do you think?
They just couldn't stay on the field with Ohio State. They got down by 18 pretty early, and from there Ohio State kept them at arm's distance. I think Penn State's pretty good. I mean, they should have won the game last week. Made a mistake in some situational football late in that game that took it to overtime. A little overmatched this week. I still, what do they got, an 8-game season? I'd have to look at the rest of their schedule. I wouldn't be surprised if Penn State finished the season 6-2. I mean, James Franklin has proven that, he can win some ball games. It was tough. It's a tough start to the season. I think they've come out a little rusty. And and yesterday, but Ohio State's the class of the conference, so that's going to be that. But I think they'll beat Maryland next week, and I think they'll beat Nebraska the week after that, and I think they'll beat Iowa the week after that. Then it's Michigan. Like that's 5 wins on the schedule still. The Michigan game, we'll see, but they've got 5 wins on the schedule pretty easily, in my opinion.
How about you, Fish?
I'm not. It's one of those years where. Usually the Big Ten, they play a couple MAC schools together. That's basically their preseason. Them not having a preseason and going in, we've talked about this before. There's after Ohio State, a lot of these teams in the Big Ten, there's not really a whole lot that separates them. So if you have a bad day or you get off to a slow start, especially this early in the season, you could lose a ball game. I think Penn State will figure it out. They lost their starting running back for the year, so they're going to have to rely on a couple young guys. Ironically, both of those kids are from Florida, but they're not. Who knows if they're really ready yet? They had 8 rushes for 36 yards for their leading running back. Penn State's not going to win a lot of ball games that they ran 27 times for 44 yards. It's never been their style. It's not going to be their style. So for Franklin to turn it around this year, he's one of those young running backs going to have to step up. I thought Ohio State looked good at times, but I do think this team's not as good as the one last year. I do think that they have some flaws. It's tough to say when you're up 38-25 to win a game, but they're another team that they're not going to be able to take a week off. And if Fields goes down, just like with Lawrence, they have a week where he either gets COVID or gets an injury or whatever. They're beatable. They're not a team that's unbeatable. This isn't the Ohio State team we saw last year, which was very good. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think they have a chance to have a pretty good year. Ohio State, if all goes well, they'll probably be in the playoffs because the Big 12 basically eliminated themselves this week. And the Pac-12 ain't starting probably for another month or so? I'm joking. I know they start next week, but it seems like they've had a month off, 2-3 months off. But we'll see what happens, but Ohio State's got a good team. Ryan Day's a good coach, and look forward to seeing them play a couple more times before you really can tell how far they're going to go.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I thought, as far as the Big Ten, I'm just excited to see Ohio State play. I think they play a different level, but it's very competitive. Every game, week in and week out, and then obviously COVID is affecting everything. You look at what happened with Wisconsin. And that program, that's going to be, that was a little detriment to them as well because they had a nice little run. But
credit to Nebraska for trying to play Chattanooga, trying to sneak in Chattanooga as a backup game. They're like, let's sneak a victory in there. The Big Ten's like, nah, bro, ain't gonna happen like that. But I give them credit for trying. I'm like, that's a pretty sweet move right there. Hey, we got Chattanooga going to line here, ready to jump.
Hey, you can't blame them. You can't blame them. But let's talk about surprise probably of the season, fellas. Cincinnati and BYU. Both teams have a shot really in the playoffs. They're both ranked in the top 10 currently. Both playing very good football. I watched BYU. They play a little later, but I watched them and they just seem like a sound football team. They have a good quarterback, a lot of good skill players. They don't look like your typical BYU team when you watch them. I caught a little bit of the Cincinnati game, and they look very competitive. But, what are your thoughts on those two teams and if they have a legitimate chance to actually be a playoff contender?
I've been on the this BYU team since week 1 when they just blew out Navy. This is a very, very good football team. And for those that don't get to watch them because they come on at 10 or 11 at night, they are very good. They're probably the most balanced team outside the elite teams that are FBS, the Power 5 teams. But Zach Wilson's an NFL quarterback, may go in the first round. They have a running back, Algier, who had 60 rushes and 95 yards for a touchdown. And their wide receivers are all very good route runners. They're so consistent. You watch this team, if it's 3rd and 8, they run past yardsticks and get first downs. How many times do you watch teams and it's 3rd and 6 and the guy runs a 3 or 4 yard route and you're like, BYU doesn't do that. They make you pay. And I think the other day, I think it was like 5 possessions in the first half. They scored 5 touchdowns. They're very efficient. They go up and down the field. And their team does, even when they bring the backups in, they were up, 38-10. And their coach brought the backup in, and there was 5 minutes left, and he still kept pushing the ball down the field. They try to pound you into the turf, and I would like to see them play one of the teams in the playoffs. I think if you have a bad day and this BYU team's hot, they could upset somebody, especially in this year of so many crazy things. It took something crazy for them to win the national title in '84. This may be one of those years where everything falls into place, and maybe they compete for a playoff spot and a run in the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt.
I like BYU. You remember, BYU's got some older guys on the team. You look out there, you got like a 27-year-old
grown man.
You got some linemen all in their late 20s, so they're just they're grown. But going on Cincinnati, I've been a big fan of Luke Fickell for a long time. Last year they made the AAC title game. They've been sniffing around the top of that conference for a while, and I think finally he's got that team. And I mean, they obliterated Memphis yesterday. I think they beat them 49-10, and they look so much far and away better than anybody else in the AAC. So, I think if they went out, and right now I think they're, what are they, 6th? They went out. If you look at that schedule, UCF, they got to go on the road to UCF on the 21st. I think that's really their big game now. But if they went out, it's going to be, I think there is a spot open this year. I mean, I with the Big 12 kind of playing themselves out, I don't know if the SEC is going to get into. I mean, I watched Georgia yesterday. They don't look like a team that you want to see. That's a playoff team. Florida and Missouri. I mean, Florida, they won big. It was not a very good game to watch. It wasn't aesthetically pleasing in any way possible. Outside of Alabama, I don't know that the SEC can just get it. I mean, if Cincinnati goes undefeated and Georgia or Florida is stuck in there with 2 losses, I can't just say that they deserve to be in. So I think there's a spot. I think this might be the year there's a spot for a team, whether it be Cincinnati or BYU.
Yeah. Cincinnati made it to the Sugar Bowl not that long ago. I think they played the Gators. Yeah. And this is a better Cincinnati football team. That team, made a nice little run, but they say defense wins championships, and Fickell has an elite level defense, especially this year. You watch them. They're so sound. They don't miss tackles. They don't over pursue. They get you in long yardage situations. They make the other team feel uncomfortable on offense. I mean, Memphis put a lot of points up on UCF, and Cincinnati made them look pedestrian. I mean, this is the worst Memphis has looked on offense probably in the last 5-6 years. They haven't been dominated like this. And that's how they're a good football team. They dominated this game from start to finish. You never thought watching this game that Cincinnati was going to lose. I watched this game and I was thoroughly impressed. I had gotten the chance, honestly, to meet Coach Fickell. He was at Ohio State at the time. And, you get to meet guys, guys that are going to be head coaches. He was a young guy at the time, but very impressive to meet in person. And you can see why he's good. And I'd like to be his agent. That's all I got to say. I'd like to be his agent because this guy's going to be making a lot of money in the next 2 years. Somebody's going to have to pay a big paycheck to pull him away from Cincinnati. And you know what? He's got all the leverage. Yeah. He's at a good program. He can win a lot of ball games. He's not going to have to take a program that is one of these programs that's impossible to win at. He's going to get a chance at a big time job and possibly in the Big Ten. He's an Ohio State guy, but what's to say, one of the jobs in the Big Ten opens up this year because somebody decides to take a job in the NFL. So it's possible that Fickell ends up back in his old conference. I mean, he had a shot last year at Michigan State, but this year I think, there's not going to be a lot of jobs open, but he's going to be the hot candidate. He'll be the guy next year that everybody's going to want.
Was that a fish nugget just now?
Hey, there's always rumors of Harbaugh going to the NFL, but I know Michigan fans ain't too happy with them because of the loss this weekend. They're not firing them. I mean, Michigan fans need to back down. I know it's upsetting to lose to Michigan State. Hey, Ohio State's beating everybody, so don't be upset that they beat you again. Come on. I mean, honestly, if he wins against Ohio State, the guy deserves an extension because you're talking two different levels of talent.
Yeah.
But, Harbaugh's, people still like him in the NFL. He's going to probably have a shot, and he may get tired of, recruiting and coaching in college, and that job opens up. And, Fickell, it's going to be tough. I mean, we've talked about it before where, Mario had a chance to go to Florida State as an O-line coach, and, that playing at that school, it's tough sometimes to, hey, I got to go to that rival that I hated, but he may be forced. Can Fickell turn down Michigan? He may have been a rival, but that's going to be a hard job to turn down if Michigan comes calling. But
absolutely.
By the way, you want to know how to win national titles? Ohio State staff in 2015. Their co-D coordinators are Luke Fickell and Greg Schiano. That's how you win national titles.
Yeah.
That's sort of a coaching staff.
No doubt.
Urban Meyer is your head coach. That's how you win national titles, by the way.
No doubt.
And I've always said you could tell a staff by how many guys are going to move up. Position coaches that are going to move to coordinators and coordinators that are going to become head coaches. And that's how you could tell how good of a staff you have. And you look at that, what Urban's had. Jeff Hafley or this guy at Ohio State. He's at Ohio State. He's now a head coach at Boston College. You look, I know Chris Ashton had success at Rutgers, but he became a head coach. You look at all the guys all the guys, Kevin Wilson, all these guys become head coaches or have been head coaches. You're going to have a lot of success if those guys are position coaches. Running programs like that. But, Cincinnati's done a great job. And like Corey said, I think it's going to be tough to keep them out if they are an undefeated team and some other team has 2 losses.
Yeah. Well, that's it for us. If you need to hear us or we want to follow us, we're on Twitter at Mac and Fish Podcast. We're also on Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, as well as Apple Podcasts. Hit us up with a rating, 5-star, and leave a great review for us. We really appreciate that. Thank you. See you guys again.